Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I wanted to show you this, and I'm going to show you what, since we've got the Hinman emails coming out, I wanted to go over with you the one person who I find more mysterious in the entire ETHGATE thing, because they show up all throughout, but we didn't see them in any of the SEC documents, and we didn't see them in any of the email stuff. But they're all around this thing, and this has always been one of the greater crypto mysteries for me for a lot of reasons, and we're going to go over that person today. But first, I've been blocked by that person, by the way. But first, and I'm not saying that person did anything wrong, but I'm just going to show you the things we know for sure and let you decide for yourself. U.S. Treasury has blacklisted several Binance-hosted wallets with alleged ties to North Korea's government. That's the same North Korea that the Ethereum guys had one of their guys go and do a presentation to, by the way, back in the day. I haven't seen one of these in a while, but it's interesting to see where people's minds are at. XRP price prediction after settlement or judgment plus post-judgment settlement or whatever it is, judgment, whatever. This is what everybody kind of thinks. 58% think that it could go to $10. 21% say $3. I think that there's no real way to tell. I mean, you could have a situation where it doesn't do anything for a while and then later flies to something once people have digested the thing. People could assume the case was negative on the front end and have the prices go down and then later realize that it was good. Who knows? We'll see. Now, check this out. Major news for XRP holders. Top real estate developer in Dubai is now accepting XRP as payment for homes in their luxury residential complex, Katura Reserve. This not only provides a practical use case for XRP, enhancing its utility, but also further legitimizes cryptocurrency in the global real estate market. A huge step for crypto adoption and high-level transactions. Very interesting. Now, I'm writing a note down here, 1 second, and then we'll get into it. Okay, first, today at 3 p.m., John Deaton, there is some confusion, and there's also some confusion on my part. I think I understand it, but we're going to find out at 3 o'clock when John Deaton on his channel tells us about it. But he says these emails seem to have been taken on a life of their own. Some people are confusing these internal SEC emails with the emails being sought by Empower. Today's short live stream will cover the actual names of the people who are in the Hinman emails. My understanding of the Hinman emails is that these are the internal deliberations amongst the people at the SEC, like Bill Hinman and Michael, what was the guy's name? Michael Seaman, maybe Valerie Chepanik. I don't know if Jay Clayton would be in there. All the people inside of the SEC. Whereas the Empower emails are the freedom of information. What I don't know is if it includes any emails from SEC personnel to external people where external people where they were talking about the whole Ethereum speech and all that. I don't know if that's covered. I know that the Empower list covers all kinds of people from Andreessen Horowitz, from Union Square Ventures, from all of the law firms like Perkins Coie, the Lowell Nesses, the Mike Novogratz, the people like that. That's the Empower list, okay? And that's what that list is about, which is separate from this, okay? So But what I want to talk about today is one of the people who was who was all around this whole Ethereum thing, but they never did show up on the Freedom of Information Act list, and they never showed up in any of the meetings with the SEC. But I've always had it in my gut that this person was involved somehow, and I'll show you what I mean. This person's name is Katie Haun, former prosecutor asked to investigate Bitcoin, who became the face of crypto venture capital investing. Okay, that's her. She's blocked me because of our coverage of ETHGATE. First thing I want to show you is this is Richard Branson's island. In 2016, Richard Branson he invited a bunch of blockchain people to his island in 2016. And he invited them there just to discuss the future of blockchain and all. Well, there was one guy there from Homeland Security, and we know now that Homeland Security had met with the 4 Satoshis, okay? But look who else was there.
Resilience. What was born out of this?
That's one Katie Haun. She's a lecturer at Stanford Law School, federal prosecutor, U.S. Department of Justice. Well, what does that have to do with us? Well, here's the Bill Hinman Ethereum Free Pass timeline. Starts out May 5th, 2015. Then Assistant U.S. Attorney Katie Haun signs off on the FinCEN Ripple Labs settlement, which calls XRP a virtual currency. She's the one that I guess prosecuted Ripple, and I don't know if prosecuted is the right word, but she was the signature on the settlement with Ripple. And then January 24th of 2018, Katie Haun is sitting on the front row and asks Jay Clayton a question about regulation. And that's at Stanford. The very next day, Jay Clayton goes to Andreessen Horowitz to meet with Chris Dixon and make Chris Dixon the guy to go off and create the venture capital working group, and he puts together the whole thing that eventually becomes the Bill Hinman Ethereum Free Pass speech. On April 12th, 2018, in Yahoo Finance article, Katie Haun says, I had the occasion to meet with Jay Clayton at Stanford recently. Now that could have been back here on January 24th. We don't know. Not sure if she's referencing the 24th. Then on June 25th, now June 25th is just a handful of days after the Bill Hinman speech. Andreessen Horowitz announces the hiring of Katie Haun as general partner. She will co-lead a $300 million crypto fund with Chris Dixon, same guy that Jay Clayton designated to form the venture capital working group. The fund will be able to invest 20% into Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right, so there's her involvement on the timeline. Well, first I'll show you this. This is her on the front row. This is the day before Jay Clayton goes over to Andreessen Horowitz to sit down and tell Chris Dixon to go put a group together. And I always wondered if Katie Haun was put there, because remember, she's also been on the Coinbase board. She was on the Coinbase board. Chris Dixon was on it too. Okay? So this is her asking the question to Jay Clayton.
Until they find a lawyer who's willing to work.
All right, let me see if I need to pump the volume up here.
Hi, so I was a federal prosecutor for over a decade, and I was one of the first Bitcoin and cryptocurrency prosecutors, was the crypto coordinator for the Justice Department. And now I'm no longer with the government, so I can ask you, how do you you and your staff keep up with all of these technologies? I'm here in Silicon Valley, and I feel like now I'm in a different space, but one of the challenges we had at the government and the Justice Department was, now there are 1,400 different crypto assets, and every day they're adding new ones. How do you guys keep up with this?
All right, his answer is not important. The important thing is that she's sitting there, and the very next day, Jay Clayton goes to Andreessen Horowitz, where she ends up working with the very guy who he puts in charge of going and getting that Ethereum Free Pass together. Okay? Now, here's Nancy Wotas, who was also, she was, to me, I think she was one of the good guys for sure. And here she's talking about who all was involved in that venture capital working group.
See, on a number of fronts, one of them being Andreessen Horowitz reached out to the chairman when he made a speech at Stanford saying, we're going after the lawyers, we're going after the accountants, and sat down with him. And what the chairman of the SEC said was, look, form a small working group and come up with some suggestions. Pretty much saying, look, we're tired of talking to people about the Howey test. Put some real practical suggestions together. So Andreessen Horowitz, together with Union Square Ventures, sat down with 3 law firms, McDermott, Will & Emery, Perkins Coie, and Cooley, all of whom had a fairly significant crypto practice, together with 2 academics, Joe Grunfest and Adam, as well as NVCA. And
it's not MVCA, it just says that there, it misunderstood her. It's NVCA. NVCA is this right here, National Venture Capital Association, okay? And here's why that matters to me, is that after the Hinman speech has already happened, Katie Hawn shows up at Stanford at the NVCA Venture Capital Symposium, and who's she going to be on stage with? Joseph Grunfest, who was one of the people involved in the Venture Capital Working Group, and Valerie Chapinick from the SEC. But we can't get our hands on this video right here. So if anybody has this video right here, I would love to see it. But I just have a hard time feeling like it's a coincidence that Katie Hawn is all around this thing, but her name's not in the meetings. Her email's not shown up in the thing. The Freedom of Information Act request didn't even ask if she was on that email list. Maybe Empower can ask. But then there's this, which makes it even more bizarre, is when she was on stage with Sam Bankman-Fried and said this.
Your story is really interesting to me, and we were talking about this a little bit backstage. So Katie actually went to the Stanford Law School and studied with Sam's mother.
And father.
And father. So,
they taught me what I knew
but they had actually never met in person until just now.
Well, for a couple decades.
Right.
Sam might be the first person in crypto I ever met.
She knew Sam when he was a little kid. Your story.
Now, and then there was this. Then Greg Kidd said this about when Ripple went to the Treasury, which is FinCEN, and what he said happened.
And I was at Ripple when we went in for Treasury to have that conversation, and the investigation and the FinCEN file probably started, within 5 minutes of me leaving the building. And so
I was a federal prosecutor.
So how about that? Okay. Now that, and then finally, the final thing, there's all kinds of mystery around this lady to me. But the final thing is that she was a large Coinbase shareholder. And I've always, something that's never sat well with me. And look, I don't have any problem with someone being in government and then leaving and go to the private sector and get rich. But listen to what these guys talk about here. One thing that's always had my antenna up is that a lot of the people that were the board of directors and those original Coinbase shareholders, when Coinbase went public, it shot to $350 and they all got out. And now you got the government going after Coinbase. And I've always wondered whether anybody knew that was going to be what happened, whether anybody involved knew that these guys were all going to be taken out and then later on the government would go after them. I'm not saying she did. I'm not saying anybody did. But that's always not sat well with me.
she becomes a VC at Andreessen Horowitz in 2018. She joins as a general partner. The year before that, 2017, she was named to the board of Coinbase. That's interesting. I guess, they wanted a diverse board member who had a different background. Coinbase has you can't say that she's that's bullshit.
No, I'm saying her
work history. So she's not a business person. She's from like the regulatory, like, you know, side of things. That's her expertise. So that's a good person to have on your board. Somebody who was part of the government's cryptocurrency task force. Definitely see the value there. But how much value is what I got to ask? That's the question of the day. How much value? And what's this too much value? Okay, so she joins the board and she gets, on the day of her IPO, it was worth $73 million. That was April 14th, 2021. And she sold pretty much the top. So she was selling at, she was sold at that price, and then she sold even more as it went up to like whatever $300 something a share. It's currently trading, for far less than that. So let's see what Coinbase is trading at today. Coin stock price, I think that's 40 something bucks a share. Yeah, $41 a share. So she sold it at like the whatever 300s, 380, 380s type of rate.
And look, I don't hold I don't hold against anybody trying to make some money, and I also don't hold it. These people could have been holding on to shares for a long time and they wanted a liquidity event. I understand that too. But around this one woman, there's just so many questions that I have always had, and I've never really gotten any good answers. I've been blocked instead. But again, I'm not accusing her or anybody else of anything. I'm just saying there sure are a lot of questions. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that Katie Hawn is one mysterious crypto person.